1 week later.
Welcome to Demasked. My name is Fresman, and today I'm joined by Mercury the Scribe. How's it going, Mercury?
Hello, it's going great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. I'm glad to have you on. I've been looking forward to this one because you were recommended to me by two separate narrators.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that makes me happy.
So, what would you say you do on your YouTube channel?
I would say I do primarily narrations. It's all of my own original work.
Mm-hmm.
And then occasionally I'm starting to get into rapping, so I have like some lyrical horror stories that are in like song form.
Okay. How long have you been on YouTube for?
Ooh, I think I just had my third or fourth anniversary. It's been a couple years. I did take a break.
Hmm.
So I was on YouTube for like a year, and I took like maybe like a year-long break, and then I came back. So I say it's like 3 years, maybe 3.5, something like that. I've been here for a while.
What got you into it in the first place?
But you said what got me interested?
Yeah, what made you start your channel?
So I'm primarily a writer, and I just wanted to basically share my stories. I thought it'd be interesting if I turned them into audio, gave them a different format, and that's basically how it started. I was like, hey, I didn't know anything about the horror community, narrations. Like I would listen to stories, but I didn't know anything about like actually doing it myself and getting into it. I didn't know the mechanics of it. I just kind of said, hey, why don't I start doing this? And then I saw like other channels, and that kind of inspired me to keep going.
Mm-hmm. And well, that, from what I've seen, the especially the narrator community seems to be a very open and accepting community.
Oh yeah, definitely. Everybody's very friendly. Um, Usually people have more than one thing. Like some people also draw too, and that's really cool.
Mm.
So no matter where you're coming from, and everybody has like a different background. It would be surprising how real people are and, what they've been through. And you're like, everybody's really kind, accepting. So I did feel like very welcomed when I first started. Like when I actually like started getting into it and meeting people, I was like, wow, this is pretty fun. And I started doing it regularly.
Hmm. Which of your videos would you say has been your favorite to work on?
That's an interesting question. My favorite to work on, it would probably be The Initiate. It's in the form of a radio show, and I think that was the first one where, like, it's not exactly a series, but I started doing sort of a series thing with it, and then I started tying in other, like, videos with it.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, like, people don't necessarily, like, make the connection yet, but I like, started taking from other videos and kind of weaving this kind of story. And I just like the presentation of it, so working on it was really fun. And then the different voices, I started getting more comfortable with doing like a more manly voice. And that video, I like really tried to put myself into it and like really tried to do that character. And I had a lot of fun. Like, I thought that was a pretty good video.
How long would you say it takes for you to kind of not well? I mean, I understand writing takes a hefty amount of time, but how long would you say it takes for you to go from like writing to recording?
Ooh, sometimes it varies. When I was on my regular schedule, so when coronavirus wasn't, keeping us all in lockdown, so I would write all my own stuff. Let's say it was like flash fiction. I would give myself a week. So for that story, I'm projecting that I'll be finished by the next week, like in the middle of the week, or maybe even like Thursday or Friday. So about a week to write it, I'll give myself, and then by like Sunday or Monday, I'll start recording, and then by Wednesday and Thursday, I want to have finished editing and things like that. So almost 2 weeks for the whole process. If it's something short, if it's something longer, definitely it could take longer than that.
What's the longest you've taken on a video?
After it was written, like the script and everything.
Yeah.
I know recently I did The Whale, and that one was more audio based instead of just, descriptive with words. And that one took, after I wrote it, because writing it was easy, but actually producing it, I think it took me like a week just to produce it. So when you think about it, like compare it to my usual schedule, I took a couple of days to get everything recorded and edited. So maybe like 2-3 days max. For this one, it took me like a week, maybe even a week and a half. I remember I had to like push it back. Like I couldn't release that video because there were just a lot of different parts to it. Yeah, I love that video, and I love the story. I love that it was the first one that I was trying to, do that with. But it was actually hard. It was time consuming, especially because I wasn't the only narrator on it. So I had made it harder. I had to piece everything together, use all these sounds. Yeah, I think that was like the toughest one I ever did. And it sounds kind of simple when you're like listening to it. It's like, oh yeah, all these things. But when you break them all down, it's like, oh, you have to have, this sound coming from this direction. The other sound has to come from this direction. Then audio's happening. You have a phone going off. Yeah, I would say that's my hardest one.
The problem I have is like the neighbors decide to start mowing their lawn midway through.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The neighbors definitely are. Now it's more like the neighbor's dog. And these leaf blowers that come out here, or the neighbor with the motorcycle. Those are like the three things.
I'm looking at your channel as we're talking, and there's one that catches my eye, and I have a question for you about it. Well, not so much about it, but it's in regards to the name of the video. It's about your video chain letter. Have you ever received a chain email or text or letter?
Yeah, definitely. I used to receive them more so back in the day, like maybe 10 years ago. They were kind of popular. You know what I mean? When you're like in high school or like early college or something, and they send you like the little, if don't stop reading this kind of thing. And I always thought it was kind of creepy. Like, what if one of those were actually real?
Did you ever did you ever fall for any of them?
I think the first one maybe, but like not in a way that like I'm gonna like send it out to people, but like I was just kind of like wary and scared, and I was like, oh, nothing happened.
Well, there was one that you could get over, I believe it was text message, and it had a picture of like I'll have to find, like, future me in editing, you know what photo I'm talking about, so can you put that up on the screen? I'll send it to you later, Mercury. But it's like a girl smiling with like blood on her face and all that. But it had this whole like sob story of like, oh, this girl fell down a sewer and died, and if you don't send this to 10 people, she'll show up at your house.
Did my internet pause?
And when I was younger, I was afraid of everything.
Okay,
so I'm like, oh, now I have a ghost that's following me. Great. Awesome. So we had a minor subset of technical difficulties there for a second. So I'm not sure how far we got before we disconnected, but we were discussing chain letters.
Yes.
I'm not sure how much you heard, but again, future me and editing, you can fix this. I believe in you. But they had that photo of that like bloody faced girl that's like, you know, fell down a sewer, and if you don't send this text, it'll send that ghost to your house. And
That's disturbing.
well, the one thing that I didn't get, like, because I was like, what, 12, 13 when I got that message, and I was like, all night I was just like, why? I'm like, oh my god, I don't know 10 people. I can't send it to anybody.
Yeah, I think that got me too. Maybe that's why I didn't send it to anyone. I was just like, oh, I'm already dead.
Well, I'm sitting there and I kept like, I made the mistake of like, I kept looking at that photo, and it creeped me out, and something occurred to me, which kind of ruined the you know, the magic of that, which is like,
Yeah.
who got that photo of the ghost on their phone?
Oh, that's true.
You know?
That's true. Yeah, because, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. What happened with that?
Wait, who found it out? Who typed the story? Wait.
Yeah, and why did they even send it to us all? Why did you start this? Just die on your own.
Why did you do this?
Don't drag us down.
Like, I'm glad those have kind of died off. Oh man, do you remember that fad that was part of internet videos for a really long time in the late aughts of jump scares?
No, but which fad?
Like the videos that had jump scares edited into them.
Oh, yeah, when people just like, they like to put them in there. Oh, those get me.
Just for the shock value.
Some of those, I admit, they do get me.
Like, there's a classic one. It's that one of the car driving through the hillside.
Oh my gosh. Wasn't that
Yeah.
an Adult Swim one where I forgot what it was even for, and they had like the Exorcist girl or something pop up?
They had a couple of years ago. There's one that comes to mind. You know what? Pretty sure that was an Adult Swim one, but they had one a couple of years ago that got me pretty good, and it came on at like 3 a.m. And I was visiting family at the time, so I wasn't even like at home.
Oh man, that's the worst.
Yeah, and you know how Adult Swim has those like pre-commercial, like the black screen with the white text.
Yeah.
They were doing this thing that's like, how to tell if you're a ghost, and it's like, you can walk through walls, or you don't appear in sunlight, and then it says, or this scares you, and then a face just like, nah!
Oh my gosh. That sounds like a good one. You're like, what? How to tell if I'm a ghost?
The thing is, like, it kind of catches you off guard, so you're like, yeah, I'm not floating through furniture. Then, it's just like, oh.
That sounds funny. I didn't see that one. But I love stuff like that.
Especially the one with or the maze game where they had the girl from The Exorcist. That was the worst one for me.
There's something about being able to be scared because, you know, we're in the horror community. I write a lot of horror stories. I watch a lot of horror movies. Sometimes I feel like I don't get scared as easily anymore. I kind of lose that thrill. So it is kind of nice to have those little moments where something gets you. At least for me, I'm like, ooh, that got my heart pounding a little bit.
Well, are you a believer in the paranormal?
I am. I am. I'm skeptical. Like, I'm skeptical about everything. Like, I still try to, find a little bit of explanation. But if something's, I believe that there is things that I can't explain. And if something's kind of clear to my eyes because I have experienced something paranormal, then I'm not going to try to, deny it and be in denial about it.
Mm. What have you experienced that you would consider paranormal?
It's something simple, but at the time it really freaked me out because I've never experienced anything like it before or again at that. Even now I wondered if what I saw was true. I know it was, but since it's been a while, you can start to think that those things are dreams. It was just me at home, completely by myself. All the windows were closed, the door was closed. I didn't have any fans on or anything, and we had this full loaf of bread sitting on like, it's like a countertop, but it's not attached to like the counters. It's like one of those standalone racks, and it had a counter on the top of it with like a little raised edge, and that's where the loaf of bread was. And I was sitting in the living room, and I think I was either writing something or I'm on my computer watching TV, something like that, minding my own business, when from the corner of my eye I see the loaf of bread fly across the kitchen and smack the opposing like counter or little cabinet or whatever. And it didn't just fall, it actually moved as if somebody slapped it right off the top of that rack. Like, it was very, it projected itself. That's the thing that scared me so much. Like, if it just fell, then maybe I'd be like, oh, I could come up with some excuse. But it hit the cabinet with a bang, and I was so startled. I was like, oh my God. Like, what was that? Like, I had no explanation for it. Ever since then, I was like, I definitely think there are some things that I can't explain.
Mm-hmm. I'm here or there when it comes to the paranormal. Like, I've certainly had my share of strange experiences, but I'm more in the camp of I'm skeptical, but I'm not willing to find out if I'm wrong.
No.
Like, I'm not gonna play with a Ouija board just in case.
Oh yeah, that's definitely understandable. Like, a lot of people, when you see them, playing Ouija boards on YouTube, like they're making videos of going to haunted houses and stuff, and it looks fun, or, they don't look scared. I personally think even that small thing was kind of scary. Like, I wouldn't purposely go looking for ghosts to get attached to me.
And I've had, there's a moment that comes to mind where I was at home, and I was on my computer, which I usually am, and but I had my headphones out, and I was just kind of spacing out. I think it was like looking at my cat or something, and I hear somebody just in perfect clarity go, "Hey!"
Oh wow!
But behind me in the room, and I'm home alone.
Ugh. That kind of makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. That's creepy.
Yeah, it wasn't like, oh, I had my window open or something.
Yeah.
Because I never do, because I'm paranoid.
Yeah. It's like, what you heard, like, and it seems impossible, but it's like, you heard it. Like, you experienced it. That's crazy.
Well, even then, it didn't sound like anybody in the house.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had a couple audio things where, like, I thought I've heard just, something that shouldn't be there. Sometimes I have, like, sleep paralysis. Usually, though, during my sleep paralysis, I don't hear anything strange, and I don't see anything strange. But I'll have instances like one year, and it happens infrequently, but it's really terrifying when it does, and I don't think it's sleep paralysis. where I would just wake up because I can sense something with me,
Mm.
and then I'll just experience odd stuff like I'll hear this dual tone voice speaking in my ear, and it'll get louder and
Mm.
louder, and I'm just like, who is that? And then I'll feel like they mean me harm or something, like it feels dark, and then I'll just kind of
Mm.
like I don't know, go back to sleep because what can you do? But I'll have odd little paranormal things like that happen, and I feel like they're different from my sleep paralysis because you know how you feel in sleep paralysis. This doesn't quite feel like that, so I've always been kind of, I don't know, a little bit like creeped out by it.
Mm. Have, I like the I'm a big fan of the idea of like not so much the idea of ghosts, but the idea of the interaction with ghosts.
Yeah.
Like I'd very much. Have you seen the movie Frighteners with Michael J. Fox?
Ooh, that sounds very familiar. I feel like I
See,
have
I
seen it.
hope. See, I hope the afterlife's like that, where I'm just a ghost and I just get to hang out on Earth,
You're like, I'm trying to
just
visit
go
some
and pester
friends
people.
and prank people. Just have a good old ghosty time.
You know what? I'm gonna backhand this loaf of bread across the room.
I think time is weird too, you know? It's possible. Some people say that the ghost experience that you have, it's
Mm-hmm.
like actually you in a different dimension.
Mm.
It's like in that other dimension, maybe I slammed into the rack, or maybe I like smack the bread.
Mm.
I don't know. You never
Well, I
know.
well I had this. I was watching. I think it was a ghost hunting show, and I accidentally kind of created my own version of hell,
You agree.
where like it's not so much the idea of being a ghost that would terrify me. It's the idea of being entirely imperceptible to anybody.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But it's like, oh, what was that movie? It wasn't The Forgotten, but it was something to that effect where it's a guy who was recently murdered turned into a ghost, but no matter what he did to try to get people's attention, it wouldn't, like, the environment around him would like reset itself.
Oh, wow. That sounds pretty good.
He,
I'm like, I kind of want to
yeah,
watch
like
that.
he like he like sweeps a whole shelf of books off the shelf, and then when he turns back around, they're all back on the shelf.
But if this isn't one about, it's like an adult, right? It's not like a teenager.
It's like it looks to be a 20-year-old playing a 18-year-old. Like he's like it's a dude.
Because it sounded a little bit
It's
familiar to
some
me.
dude. If I remember, he gets like hit by a car. It's a movie from like 2007.
Oh,
Six.
is the only one that the only person that can see him? Is it a girl he had like a crush on?
Yeah.
Oh, I saw the movie. I did see the movie.
Because if I remember, The Forgotten was like about aliens or something.
Oh, it was the
But then
Forgotten. Yeah,
that's
yeah, that's what the Forgotten is about. Yeah, that's the Forgotten. That's the one with the little boy, right? And the aliens take him.
yeah.
And then this one was
But if I remember, it had a very similar name.
the Invisible. No.
Something for maybe.
Oh, now it's bugging me too. Oh my gosh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Because I don't know why that movie immediately came back to mind because I
That movie was
I used to
good.
eat. Yeah, well, like for all of you 90s kids out there. Remember VHS tapes?
Oh, God.
I do.
Yes.
But you know, like the pre-movie commercials on VHS?
Yeah.
So that was one of the commercials. I think it was on the same VHS as like Blade 2.
Oh, okay. Man, I wish I could remember. Is it really not like the Invisible?
Yeah, something like that.
I feel like it's not the Invisible, but we're like close.
Yeah, future me in editing, if you can figure that out, I'll be very impressed. But if you can figure that out and then get back to us, that would be great. But I'm putting a lot of weight on future me's shoulders.
There is a movie called The Invisible, but maybe it's not the one we want. I'm not sure. It's 2007.
Maybe.
I hope future you can find it. That will be impressive.
See, now it's really on your shoulders. Future me. Now you get to put up with that.
I believe in future you. I really do.
It is the Invisible.
It is the Invisible?
Past me has got it.
Yeah.
Don't worry, future me.
Nice.
The minute I saw the actor, I'm like, it is him.
Yeah, because for some reason, I don't really I remember it, but I don't remember it. I mean, I remembered it well enough to remember that it's called The Invisible.
I remember the commercial. I don't think I've ever seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
I don't think I ever got the chance, but that's what kept coming to mind was that shot of him slapping the books off the shelf and then it just going back.
You totally have to watch this movie.
I mean, it's on YouTube. I'm not sponsored by YouTube, but it's on YouTube for $2.99 to watch. Please, YouTube algorithm, be kind to me.
Be kind, please.
Now, since we're talking about movies, what's your favorite horror movie?
Ooh, I feel like I get asked this a lot, and I never have a good answer because I love so many movies. Which one was I recently into? You know, I really love found footage horror films. Like, that's like my favorite genre. So, I really love things like VHS. I loved Quarantine or Record, RAC, the original version of that. Grave Encounters is really good. Creep. I even liked As Above, So Below. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a different Catacombs film that I can't remember the name of and that I had found randomly like 5 or 7 years ago, and it was actually pretty good. It was pretty spooky, and they were just, lost down there and running away from something. But yeah, that genre of horror films I really love. So maybe one of those.
I have a love and hate relationship with found footage because, and I've discussed this before in previous interviews, but I'm not the biggest fan of jump scares in horror films. but specifically because it seems to only ever be targeted at the camera, not the person holding it.
Okay. Yeah, I understand what you mean.
And there are versions of that which work to great effect. Oddly enough, Paranormal Activity did a version of that was pretty okay, where it's somebody running down a hallway, but it's at the person holding the camera.
Yeah. Because it breaks immersion, right?
Like, yeah, and especially if the movie ends with a jump scare at the camera,
Oh.
even if the character is dead.
That would just make me laugh. It's like, what are you doing? How did you even know I was here, huh?
Well, what was the... There's one... Like, you mentioned Creep with Mark Duplass.
Yes.
So I'm great with faces when it comes to actors, but I'm terrible with names. And so Mark Duplass, I had to learn his name because of this.
I'm impressed that you know it.
He's in a show on FX. Yeah, but he's in a show on FX called The League.
The League.
And yeah, it's about, I believe it's like fantasy football, whatever. It's just like a group of dude bros drinking and making stupid bets and all that. But I had watched Creep and Creep 2, and there's a moment where you see Mark Duplass head to toe naked.
Yeah.
In Creep 2.
Oh, yeah.
And I hadn't learned his name at that point. And I was living with roommates at the time, and I walk into my roommate's, his room, and he's watching The League, and I see Mark Duplass and his character, like, drinking beer and dude broing it up, and my brain didn't go, hey, I've seen that guy before, or, hey, I saw a movie recently that he's in. I just put in, went, I've seen that guy's dick.
What a thing to remember.
Well, like, that's the only thing that, like, I'm just like, there's something about him that I remember. Like, oh yeah, it's because he had a full frontal nudity scene in Creep 2. That's why.
You're like, I may not remember your face, but... Like, if you ever have to identify his body, you'd be like, I'm sorry, officer, but can I just get a peek at his... That's him.
Can you choose him out of this lineup? Can you get him to strip down? I need to really...
That reminds me of...
Don't worry, it's for scientific purposes.
It reminds me of the Cyanide and Happiness short, where they had to identify their daughter at the morgue, and, like, the mortician just kept, like, pulling down the sheet, and they're like, no, but when they pull all the way down, they're like, well, they're like, that's our daughter, no, we don't want to see it, but he pulls all the way down, and they're like, oh yeah, that's not our daughter's vagina. I'm just like, oh, what?
Like, I'm a big fan of Cyanide and Happiness. Are they still doing their show?
Yeah, they're still going. In fact, I literally just bought their card game, Joking Hazard, 2 days ago.
How is it?
I played it before with a different friend, but I didn't own it, and it's really fun.
Mm.
You get to it's like making your own little short films with the cards. It's really funny. But they are still going.
Do you remember that bit, Phantom Pregnancy?
How did that one go?
It's a weird, like, I feel like comedy writers should do horror more often, because that was some straight up horror.
Was it the one?
Because it's like,
where she's like pregnant and like she's in the doctor's office?
Yeah.
Okay, I may know what you're talking about now.
And she's like, and the doctor's like, Miss Johnson, you're not pregnant. It's a phantom pregnancy. We're pretty sure you don't have a baby. And she's like, ooh, I'm going into labor. And then he's like, all right, I guess I'll check. And then he's like, oh, wait, there's a head. And he pulls out a baby. And then, like, he looks up and the lady's just gone.
Yeah. Oh, I remember.
Like, And he's in like an abandoned hospital all of a sudden.
I remember that. Yeah, you're right. Like that one was pretty cool. I still don't understand
Like
what all that
I
meant.
feel like, well, if I remember, it's I want to say the term is the inverse punchline. So it's a joke that you're clearly going for, but then you do the exact opposite of it.
Oh, okay, I
So
get it.
instead of the baby not being real,
Yeah.
the mom in the hospital wasn't real.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And like that was absolutely terrifying.
Oh yeah. That was a good one. It was a mind trip. I was like, "Whoa. Cool. I didn't see that coming."
Which of the found footage films would you say is your favorite of the bunch? If you had to pick one.
If I had to pick one, it would probably be, I would say, Record. So it's the original of Quarantine. So for us in the U.S., it's Quarantine, where the fireman and the reporter goes to the apartment building. The original, it's really close to the U.S., except it's going to be in Spanish. And then like the sequel kind of continues off of there. And when I first watched it, I don't know, there was something like, I always feel like there's something scary about found footage. And then especially this one because they are quarantined. And I know that's very ironic for what we're going through right now. Especially if you watch it right now. And just this kind of, you don't know what's happening. There's so much confusion. The government's involved. You're trapped in this place. People are dying, going crazy. I just personally felt like, something like that could actually happen. Like your building really could get quarantined by the CDC. You never know. We're discovering new things all the time, even viruses. I mean, look at coronavirus. And yeah, like that just really kind of creeped me out, knowing that something like that could happen. And if you go to the sequel, Record 2, they actually do explain what's going on, and even that's a trip. I don't want to kill it for anybody, just in case. Just in case they're like, I want to go see it.
Well, like I had that moment too back, like when they first were like, the stay at home and self quarantine. I was half expecting to see like a plastic sheet just drop in front of my window.
Right? Isn't that scary?
Start seeing soldiers with rifles outside.
Yeah. And at that point, it's like, are you here to help me or just contain me and let me die?
Well, even then, like, with certain virus/zombie movies, there's a huge chance that the minute you stepped into that building, you are already infected.
Yeah, that happened with some of the cops in the movie. Like, as soon as you step inside, they're like, you're a lost cause.
Yep. Oh, it's over. Time to go. What was the, do you, how big a fan are you of zombies?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm at like a 5 or 6, to be honest. Like, I'm not a huge fan of zombies. I watched the first season of Walking Dead. Couldn't really get into it. But, I mean, I like a good zombie movie. If somebody can do something with zombies that I don't expect, then I like it.
There was... Oh, man, what was it? There was a really good... I don't think the movie was called Autopsy. It was something like...
Oh, is it called The Autopsy of Jane Doe?
No, it was, it had Peter Stormare in it.
Zombie movie?
It's not... It was like a medically induced zombie movie. like this. It was like this doctor who would bring in psychiatric patients and then experiment on them, and then it would kind of inadvertently turn them into zombies. But you're kind of like the running zombies from like 28 Days Later.
Yeah.
And there's a great shot, like, it's hard for me to spoil the movie if I can't even name it. but it ends on this really horrifying shot where it's not the zombie apocalypse, but it's very much like minute one of that apocalypse.
Yeah. Wow.
Like, it's not like, oh, the city's overrun with them. It's contained to one building, and then the movie ends with a bunch of those patients escaping into the city.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I thought it was about to go that way. Like, it's not yet, but you know what's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, what was, have you played any of the Resident Evil games?
No, actually. I've seen a couple of them being played, but yeah. I'm like, maybe because everybody really loved Resident Evil, I was like, I'm not gonna play Resident Evil.
Since the cool kids like it.
Maybe it was that, because I never, picked up one.
Well, was it Resident Evil 2, I think it is, does a really good example of showing how out of hand a zombie plague can get if nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah. I think that's the scariest part, right?
Yeah. And there's Resident Evil Outbreak, which kind of takes place at the beginning of that entire catastrophe. So you're seeing the first couple hours of infection spreading through the city. And then if I remember, Resident Evil 2 was 2 weeks after. And the outside world has no clue what's going on. And the original version of Resident Evil 2 didn't do a good job of explaining how long it's been. But they explain in the remake that they've been under siege for 2, maybe 3 full weeks of just trying to survive. And what was it? Oh, I've got a history with zombie media.
Oh, so you're really
have
into...
you ever read any
into zombies?
And it's not even so much into zombies. It's I think that version of an apocalypse is very interesting because it's an interesting idea of seeing what people would do in that scenario.
Yeah.
One of the tropes that you kind of see in more modern media is the minute there's a apocalypse or a virus or something, there are immediately groups formed, which I can understand. Yeah. You got to stick together.
Yeah.
But then they all have their separate themes, which is the weird
I
part
know,
to me.
right? They get very cliquey.
We're a group of religious zealots over here in the forest. Okay. And we're a paramilitary group, but we also dress like we're from the military.
Apocalypse High School. That's what that reminds me of whenever I see that trope.
The jocks, the goths.
They literally have one like that.
Tech geeks.
On Netflix, and I can't remember the name, but it was very teen, like a teen TV show.
Daybreakers?
Yeah. That's what it is. Nice.
I haven't even seen it, but I've seen the commercial for it, and so I'm yeah, that's, I don't know if I'm gonna watch that.
Oh yeah, it has exactly what they literally were we're the tennis squad, and we're the jocks, and we're the odd squad, we're the goths, and I was oh wow, they took it and they ran with it. They were this is what we're doing, let's go.
Hey man, good on you for going trying,
Yeah, they really embrace that.
Somebody's got to go for it.
It's funny that you mentioned zombies and me not being like too into zombies. But
Mm,
recently I was obviously like it was like maybe a couple months back actually. Um, I talked to Mr. Black Pasta and I
mm,
came up with this idea because he mentioned zombies too. I think we were like discussing zombie apocalypse or something like that, and
mm,
I was talking about how I thought we should do something different with it. And I came up with this idea, which I'm not sure I should say
mm,
yet because I'm going to be working on it. So I'm going to do
mm,
like, it's probably going to be a series for the channel. It'll be a
mm,
zombie series, but I'm going to add like a little twist in there.
mm.
So you may see some zombie
I
stuff from me.
I just like there was what was it? It was a story in high school. um, I there was forgive me. You know what? Like whatever. They don't know who I am. They can't remember their names, so whatever. But even then, like, find me if you can, I guess. But
Right.
uh, but there's this group project that I had listened to in high school. It was like a creative writing class, and they did a short story on zombies. And when they started reading it, it seemed like your kind of generic, you know, just trying to survive day to day and all this. But then it pulled this really weird thing from out under you, and don't like if for any reason by coincidence this is similar to what you were writing, don't tell me. um, but from this is what I was from what I heard from the story, but they described not only what like losing somebody to the zombie horde would be like, but they also describe what it feels like turning into a zombie.
Ooh, that's interesting.
But instead of it being like, oh no, I can feel the illness coursing through my veins, it's described as a sort of euphoric warmth
Oh, okay.
that you want to that you want to share with somebody who's not infected. So you're like, I feel amazing. I need to show them this. I need to,
Let me bite you.
yeah. And so it wasn't like, brains or I need to feed. It's like, you have to understand. You have to.
I like that
And
concept.
it's gross and I loved it.
I've never thought about it that way. I'm like, hey, maybe they're on to something. Maybe it isn't too bad.
Writing notes.
I'm like, okay, you're selling me on this. You're like the zombie salesman advocate. Let me tell you why you should let us bite you.
Oh my goodness. Have you ever heard of Jonathan Colton?
No, is that like a?
So, he's a musician. Have you ever played Portal or Portal 2?
I love Portal 2. I don't have the box Majiggy, so I haven't
Mm-hmm.
played the first one. I think called Orange
Mm-hmm.
Box, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I have Portal 2.
So, Jonathan Colton wrote the song Still Alive and Want You Gone
Oh, really?
from Portal 1 and 2. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so that's a lot of his subject matter is kind of humor with tragedy kind of slightly put in there.
Yeah.
And he made a song that there's an interview where he described it. It was, what if that annoying guy at your office became a zombie and he was still that annoying guy?
That's true.
and so it's from like the point of view of the zombie, and he's just like, it's like he's in a business meeting, and he's like, things have been okay for me except that I'm a zombie now. I really wish you'd let us in. And
I
it's a
can
great
definitely
song.
sense
I'll have to,
like that would be his style.
I'll have to send it to you. He also, are you a fan, perchance, of Star Trek?
Actually, ironically, my dad was a huge fan of Star Trek, but I'm not. Like, he never, like, sat down and watched it with me or anything.
I had that, like, the same hubbub of, like, oh, my parents like it? I don't know if I'd like it.
That's how I got
And
into anime. My dad loved anime, and he kind of introduced me to it. But for some reason, like, yeah, like, he was a big Trekkie, but never really, like, showed it to me. I was just like, oh, that's Dad's show. I'm gonna go watch Lord of the Rings.
what's your favorite anime?
Ooh, probably Yu Yu Hakusho or Hunter x Hunter.
Interesting.
Yeah, and since they're done by the same people too, so there's no surprise. It's either one of those. But I love Yu Yu Hakusho. It's most definitely probably Yu Yu Hakusho. That's so old school.
I I grew up hating anime. Don't let me rephrase that. I used to hate anime. Now I love it. I say before you leave the call, I promise there's a happy ending to this. But no, because in middle school it was nothing but Naruto headbands and poorly pronounced Japanese.
Nothing but Naruto headbands and the kawaii people. I guess those are the beginning weebs, as you would have it.
Yep. Just Sugoi. I'm like,
they did that.
Yeah.
It's funny because I have a bachelor's in Japanese. So when I said Sugoi, I'm like, yeah, like, I can actually speak. I'm that weeb, I guess. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't even consider myself a weeb because I majored in it.
Yeah, you put the work in.
Yeah, yeah, basically.
It's not just kawaii and sugoi.
You're so kawaii. You're like, stop. You're like, no, please, no. Oh my gosh, Mason. Or senpai.
I'm having horrific flashbacks. But just in the last couple of years, I worked with a guy who was, how do I word it? He wasn't a weeaboo. He wouldn't misquote Japanese and all that. But he was just really into anime. He just really liked his shows. And I figured, like, you know what? I've been stubborn long enough. I think I'll just give it a shot and see what happens.
Yay.
And the first one I watched all the way through was Kill la Kill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Have you seen that show?
I actually have not seen Kill la Kill.
So allow me to defend myself here, because, like, if anybody at home, or if you, Mercury, go look that up, it's going to look very different than that show actually is.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
If that makes sense.
I had a friend that
because
cosplayed from it.
Yeah, well, on the outside, it looks very, your typical scandalous BS. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, like, by the end of the show, like, the show makes a point of why some of the outfits are so ridiculous, to the point where by the time you hit the end of the series, you don't even see it anymore. I
do remember the outfits.
Like, there are moments... Yeah. But there are moments where people are like straight up nude, and you're just like, yeah, kick his ass. Like, there's no like, oh no,
you
they're
go
nude. It's like,
dude.
yeah, fuck him up. How lewd.
Maybe I should give it a chance.
Oh. Oh, I think... did we lose you again?
Did it drop me?
Check one,
You
check
must
two.
have dropped me because I can't hear anymore.
Did... So, Sugoi. Let me... Alright, I've resumed my recording. Loud noise.
I have to.
Loud noise so I can find it. And we'll do a quick sync test. Hopefully the last one. We'll see if we can't wrap up before it all goes to pot again.
Let's not jinx it. Knocking on wood right now.
Alright, ready?
Yes.
Cool. 1, 2, 3, check.
Check.
Fantastic. I don't know what is up with either of our interconnections lately, but we were discussing, I don't know how far you heard me, but we were discussing the ins and outs of Kill la Kill.
We were. And I do not remember what the... That is so sad, but... I just remember hearing about the costumes, and I laughed about the nude dude comment that I made, because I'm weird like that. Oh, you were saying how the story, it doesn't appear like what you would think it would be.
Yeah, it's... So, like, when you look at photos of that show, very much the most prominent thing are the outfits, the costumes. And, in a lot of other anime, that's kind of just a part of it that you kind of have to live with, But
Yeah.
with Kill la Kill, they seem to kind of go out of their way to make it, like, they go out of their way to make it seem like it's not that big of a deal, to the point where it becomes, like, even nudity becomes trivial.
It's like normalized?
Yeah. Like I said, there's a moment near the end of the series where the people are straight up nude and you don't even, like, see it.
Straight up nude.
Yeah,
it's divulged into nudity.
Yeah, but by the end, your brain's not even like, oh, they're nude. It's just like, all right, whatever,
yeah.
cool, fight them.
And you don't even think about it at that point.
Yeah, and I've kind of taken that into, like, other shows and movies, because a lot of shows are like, oh, look, this woman's topless for whatever reason. I'm like, why? Instead of like, hey, look, it's like, why is that even happening?
Yeah. Maybe I should give Kill la Kill a try.
I think you should. If you like good fights and ridiculous storytelling, then you'll like Kill la Kill.
Okay.
Same with Gurren Lagann, if you haven't seen it.
No, I haven't.
Gurren Lagann.
Did I see... I think I saw like maybe a couple episodes is what happened.
Gurren Lagann, if I remember, is Don't quote me on this. I think it's still on Netflix, so I would go check that out. But it's by the same
Cool,
people who
Netflix
made
has
Kill
it?
la Kill.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That makes sense. Because I feel like the art style is kind of similar too.
But it all like it seriously bumps up the ridiculousness of how weird a fight can get.
Okay, weird fights. I'm
Yeah.
interested.
Do you have any recommendations for anime to watch?
Ooh, for anime? Let's see. I feel like a lot of people may not have watched Toriko. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I think I've heard the
Yeah.
name.
They even have like a crossover with like One Piece. It's like a Food Wars meets like Dragon Ball Z. But like there's another aspect to it too. It's like adventure as well. It's a food anime that's done food in a different way to me. Like it's definitely not how you're thinking right now. Like dishes are being made, but you're out monster hunting at the same time. So like you have these gourmet kings, um, who is a show that's who the show was named after, one of these kings, and he's going out to find ingredients, and the ingredients will get mega ridiculous or like just really cool and fantastical, like I don't know, golden soda pop from like the mountains of Timbuktu. Who knows? But they'll like go to get like the ingredients and make these really unique, weird, and cool dishes. And by the way, some people have powers.
Guess what? Some people have powers.
Yeah, some people have powers, and the fights are gonna get intense. It's a really cool show. It's funny, adventurous. It kind of reminds me of like a Yu Hakusho kind of feel because you have fighting involved. Um, I loved it, and I want to finish like the manga, so I'll recommend that. I've even cosplayed as Toriko.
Mm.
It looks like I'm Goku, God form, but I'm not because he has blue hair
Mm.
and an orange jumpsuit. But I would say that's like up there with one of my favorites. I love Toriko.
Hmm. I Yeah, I'm gonna stick by my Gurren Lagann recommendation because I love like your kind of like fighting anime. I'm not a big fan of like the high school drama ones. There,
Yeah, like slice of life, stuff like that.
yeah, there is one. Scratch that. There was two that got my attention that I saw to the end, which was Clanad. Did you ever see Clanad?
Um, well, I definitely heard of it, but I can't remember if I watched it. Maybe I did. If you tell me about it, I can say
It's
yes or no.
incredibly sad. Is what I will say about it. Have you also seen Anohana?
No, I don't think I've seen that one.
That one's a rough one too. I'm not. It takes a good amount of like. It takes a good amount of stuff to happen for me to like cry at a show. But
Yeah,
like
me too.
weirdly enough, Kill la Kill made me cry, which is an
Oh,
odd sentence to say.
now I'm like, what's about to happen? I'll watch it. I'll watch it.
It's a roller coaster, man. Um, but Anohana is one that'll make you sad. Clanad, parts of it will. But I like my good old fashioned people just beating each other up.
Okay. Do you typically like if it is like slice of life? Do you like the more emotional ones?
It really depends on what's going on. Like, was it there was...
Because I actually do watch, like, high school and slice of life anime, so I may be able to recommend some.
Have you seen Ouran Host Club?
Oh, yeah, that was back... Wow, was I in... I think I was in high school when I first started Ouran High School Host Club, and then they recently redid it, right?
I believe so. Last I checked, it's on Netflix, but it's been a while since I checked. So
or they, like, continued it or something like that.
Yeah, don't quote me on that.
There's
what's
a
that?
horror anime that's high school. And I want to remember the name of it for you. Because I feel like you would probably like it. And it can get pretty gruesome. Oh, it's like on the tip of my tongue.
Is it Parasite?
No, it's
I mean, there's also Higurashi.
This is why I have internet. Oh, Higurashi. I'm on the fence with it, actually.
I like the start of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt like I liked the beginning and, like, you know, that initial getting into it. But then I kind of didn't like it towards the middle and, like, end. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. Maybe just how they explained it. Or the reasoning and, yeah.
What was it when that one kid's in the phone booth and he's trying to call somebody and you see something just getting closer and closer?
It's been a while since I watched that one too. Oh, okay. It's called Another.
Another.
I think you might like Another.
I'm writing all of these down.
School Days was good too. School Days, that's an older one.
Mm.
And you just have to watch it to the end because it's the ending that everybody was like, oh. And, I mean, that one's okay. If you were like, I have time. But for sure, Another and like I forgot that one too. It had like, they basically were playing like a game. Maybe you've seen it. It's about high school and they're playing like this game that's kind of like Truth or Dare, sort of. Mm-hmm. And if you don't do whatever the command is, then you get punished. Mm. And I think that's on Netflix or Crunchyroll. It could be Crunchyroll.
I'll have to take a look. Have you seen... I know it seems like a base level, like, recommendation / question. Have you seen JoJo?
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
I love JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
It's been a long time since I've run into somebody who has seen it.
What? No, JoJo is amazing. I introduced my friend to JoJo because I stumbled upon it randomly one night, and just like, you know, from episode 1 of the first season, shit's going down. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I love this show.
Well, I watched a clip of, so you know how they have like YouTube videos where it's like, you know, episode 1 of whatever show, right?
Yeah.
I found what had been reported as the first episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but it was like that 1993 version of Stardust Crusaders. That, like, the older animation one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and there was a shot that kind of sold me on it. Well, because it's when... It was a clip of when Jotaro and Joseph are trying to figure out where Dio is, and in, I think, the updated version, he's holding that Polaroid camera, and he focuses Hermit Purple, and the picture shoots out. But in the older version, he, like, crushes the camera with his fist, and then the picture shoots out.
Oh, really?
He's like, I'm going to use a technique known as psychography. And I'm like, alright, I'm going to have to see the show. And I saw that it was on Crunchyroll.
Nice.
And it's like, that's not Jotaro. That's not Joseph. Who's Jonathan? Why is his hair blue? What's going on?
You're like, okay, there's a whole thing to this.
One of my favorite clips to show to people who like ask me what JoJo's about is that shot of Zappelli punching the stone through the frog.
That is a good one.
Well, like that show, JoJo does really emotional
How do
moments
you
really
explain
well
JoJo?
too.
How do you explain JoJo? Yeah, it's such an interesting show. Like you said, it does have those moments. I
Well,
almost
like,
ruin something, but like, certain deaths sometimes I'll be like, ah.
well, like the how do you feel about part one?
I like part one.
So
I mean, it introduces Dio, so
yeah,
I really
and
liked it.
so I'm not going to spoil the whole series for you, wonderful party people at home. Feel free to skip ahead. But I want to talk about the end of part one
Yeah, sure.
because that, like, weirdly got me right in the chest. Not so much. Well, it wasn't so much like Irina, get in the coffin with the baby. You'll be safe in there. It's when Dio's trying to make like a plea deal with Jonathan. He's like, look, I could make you live forever. You can be with Irina forever if you just let me go. And he looks up and Jonathan's already dead.
Damn.
Like
Yeah.
his eyes have glazed over and like you just see Jonathan just kind of slump.
Yeah,
It's
I
like,
remember that moment. He was dead. You're making me sad. I'm just sad.
I'm sorry.
Oh my
Oh, Aura, Muda, 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 Muda.
Man, yeah, that was good. That brings some feels.
Did you see that weird Dio moment from part 5?
Actually, I don't think I've gotten to part 5.
Was it
I
Vento
think
Oreo?
I stopped on part 4.
Mori, Mori, Mori. Part 5 I
You're like,
think
now
is
I
on.
can't talk about it.
Great, now I gotta go back and watch it.
Part 5?
Part 4.
Part 4?
Kida Queen.
That one was with what were their names? They're all JoJo to me. The black hat JoJo and freaking Joseph was older in that one. Joseph is my favorite Joestar.
I love Joseph.
Young Joseph is my favorite Joestar.
That's a good choice.
Yeah, I'm like, let me make a little clarification here.
Do you mean Josuke from part 4?
Yeah, Josuke's in part 4, right?
Yeah, the one with the hair.
With the hair. Well, he's the one with the hat too, right?
That's
Or no?
Jotaro.
Okay, you're right. I get
But
confused now. I do this with my best friend all the time. She's like, no, that's blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what?
well, if I remember, Jotaro's the main character in part 3, but then he's a like secondary character in part 4.
Maybe I haven't seen part 4 either.
Uh-oh.
That could be a thing. Or maybe I started it.
Oh boy, am I glad I didn't continue
I've been
talking.
crazy. I've been crazy busy. That it's possible. I have been slacking on my anime.
How dare you? And so have I.
You're like, I almost killed something for you.
I haven't finished part 5 yet. But
Well, now that I have time, I should be getting all my anime.
there you go. I've written down your anime recommendations. Well, with that, before this interview cuts out again, thank you future me in editing for, stitching all this together.
Yes, thank you.
but thank you, Mercury, for coming on. I think with that, we will bring this interview to an end.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Of course, I had a blast talking to you, both about horror and anime and Mark Duplass's dick and all that.
We did talk about that. Yeah, it was a fun time.
We covered the full gamut, the tip and the bottom of the iceberg, if you will.
Oh, we did. This is really fun. I'm glad that I came on.
Well, it was a blast having you on. Wonderful party people at home, please go check out Mercury's channel. Mercury, do you have a video that you would like to be put in the description of this video that you want people to check out?
Sure. Check out The Initiate. Yeah, I love that video. I talked about it earlier in the interview. If you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend it.
And that'll be, of course, now I've got a frog in my throat. But I will put that in the description below. Please, pretty please, party people, go check out and subscribe if you haven't already to both Mercury and me.
Yes. Show some love to our host, please.
But I hope all of you at home and you, Mercury, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see all of you next time.
Thank you, you too.